Greetings, YouTube. It seems like just yesterday I was jumping into the Elder's War, and most specifically Act 5, Chapter 2, Collector Bound, where I'll never forget the first time I fought the Collector. I had root canals that went better than the first time I fought the Collector. I felt like it was the most rigged BS fight, and I realized quite quickly he was called the Collector because he is here to collect all your units and potions and, of course, your revives. But I did eventually get him down. Why? Because my only source of guaranteed damage that I would do, I don't know, it might have taken me at least 20 revives. 20 to get him down. Thankfully, they were level 1 revives I had been hoarding since Vietnam. But basically, all those revives were for one champion, and that was Juggernaut. Juggernaut cheese was the strategy I used against the Collector. I would start and I would immediately charge at him, and of course, because the unstoppable was guaranteed, I could always land a few hits, and then before he regened, I would just force quit, pop a level 1 revive into him, rinse and repeat for, like I said, about 20 times. I'm not proud of it, but it got me uncollected, so I guess all's well that ends well, right? But we know that despite a small buff with Juggernaut, despite the fact that he does have some utility that's better than originally designed with the stagger now if you parry him during Unstoppable, which strangely enough Unstoppable Colossus doesn't have. In fact, Unstoppable Colossus is now way worse than regular Colossus. But when you look at Juggernaut and all of his quote-unquote glory, you know that there are just things about him that should be better. Also, can I say, he's at SIG 173 because since he was the first 5-star that I got awakened, I would just throw all my SIG stones into him, despite the fact that his signature ability doesn't really change much at all when you have him at SIG 173. So selfishly, I'm also hoping that Juggernaut gets buffed because when you have somebody at SIG 173, you want to actually be able to at least take them to rank 4. So, Lemur 98 reached out to me randomly in the past 24 hours. And he is so passionate about Juggernaut being buffed because Juggernaut is his favorite X-Men character. And he is depressed that Juggernaut is not better in this game than he feels like he should be. So he has sent over to me, Lord knows, it probably took him at least an hour of a design update to talk about. And so I wanted to post his thoughts, and I wanted to hear your reaction from the community to see what you thought of his changes. So he believes that Juggernaut should have both Fury and a mystical force field, which is 75% damage reduction activated through the special 3, which lasts 15 seconds and has a 30-second cooldown. And while this mystical force field is on cooldown, he takes 45% less damage in general. He also should have a 35% chance for basic hits to apply armor breaks, reducing armor rating by 1,333. A special 2 with an 80% chance to apply concussion, reducing the chance to trigger defensive abilities by 65%. A special 1 with a 100% chance to gain a power rate buff, increasing power rate by 20% and lasting 6 seconds. And then he wanted to add, because this is how much thought and work he's done into this, hypothetical buff, that while the mystical force field is active, he gains a Fury buff, increasing his attack by 1,700, and while the mystical force field is active, he is also immune to the following debuffs: Cold Snap, Frostbite, Bleed, Poison, and Shock. He also has passives, because having a brother who can tap into your mind, the unstoppable Juggernaut, avoids by wearing a specialized helmet that prevents that, granting him full immunity to inverted controls, concussion, and stun. Now, I hate inverted controls. I am absolutely terrible at them, and so bringing in Juggernaut, knowing I wouldn't have to worry about them, would help on some paths, especially of Act 6. While being struck, he has a 50% chance to grant an unstoppable Juggernaut buff, absorbing the damage the opponent is dealing and sending it back to this opponent as 35% of your base attack as direct damage. I'm guessing that's Thorns-like damage. Now, that might be too OP to say 50% chance. Maybe it'd be like a 25% chance. I don't know, but that would certainly make him a crazy defender. The more crits your opponent lands, the more direct damage will increase by 5%. Oh, and the Unstoppable Juggernaut buff will disappear once a full 5-hit combo is thrown at you. Signature ability is what's called Torque's Successor. I think I'm pronouncing that right. For each 3 hits on the combo meter, Mystical Force Field's cooldown duration decreases by 0.75 seconds. Now, who knows if any of these actually have a chance to get into Juggernaut as a permanent buff, but I have to say I was very excited and impressed by how much Lemur had done his homework and really put specifics into what is no doubt a character that has a chance, especially when you look at the comics. Of course, nobody more than Magneto, and finally we're talking about a Magneto buff. But he just has a chance to at least be in the God tier conversation. I'm not saying that he would be there. And look, I get, in general, God tier exists for a reason. If everybody was God tier, nobody would be God tier. It's the whole thing. If everybody's special, nobody's special. But you at least want everybody to have some fun utility in the game. And Juggernaut, I do believe, with this redesign, would get that. So, Lemur, thank you so much. We're going to end this video here because there's no need to drag it on. Thanks for watching, YouTube, and thank you to anyone who reaches out to me with buff suggestions for champions that you're passionate about. I would love to see more of this, and so if you want to DM me on Twitter, add me online. If you're lucky enough, email me over. Carrier pigeons usually have some kind of tax on them. That's a joke. Please let me know a champion and the specifics that you would prefer them to have to be buffed, and maybe I'll make this an ongoing series since it's been dead for, I don't know, about a year. But now that we know that Kabam is going to buff 2 champions per month, there's no time like the present to bring it back.